secret relationship between blacks and Jews. We're going to look on page 20, talking about Brazil. Brazil was the anchor Jewish community from which other Western communities took root. So this is the anchor one. This is how they came in. Portuguese Jews arrived in Brazil in 1503, led by explorers Fernando de Noronha and Gaspar da Gama, who had obtained from the King of Portugal a virtual monopoly on settlement in the region. They brought sugarcane, technical skills, and slaves soon transformed Brazil into the most important area of sugar production in the world. So important that the scholars concede that Portugal could not have survived as an independent nation without the Brazilian sugar trade. Sugar was first produced in Asia, but as late as the beginning of the 15th century, sugar was so expensive in Europe that it was sold only in pharmacies for medicinal purposes. Portuguese Jews developed their mastery in the trade by establishing plantations on the island of São Tomé, off the west coast of Africa, employing at times as many as 3,000 Negro slaves. The first colonies came annually, every year, on the two ships with criminals, Jews, prostitutes, for the purpose of catching parrots. Those condemned as sinners sought refuge in Brazil's open range, and the Jews saw the commercial potential and established as many as 200 settlements along the Brazilian coast. In the 16th century, they quickly became the dominant class, writes Lee Friedman. Not inconsiderable number of the wealthiest Brazilian traders were Jews. The Jewish sugar planters prospered, living on large plantations and making extensive use of the local Indian labor and imported black slaves. By 1600, so they had been there 100 years, the plantation, the bulk of the slave trade, the more than 100 sugar mills with at least 10,000 black Africans, and most of the imports of processed sugar were in the hands of the Jewish settlers. Stephen Fortune, as early as the 16th century, Jews were interested in the large profits to be derived from the slave trade as a consequence of the sugar industry, and they appear to have no compunction regarding their activity in human merchandising. In Voyage of Francis Pirard, the author returns to Portugal from Bahia in 1611 and describes a fellow passenger. The Jew had more than 100,000 crowns worth of merchandise, most of it his own, the rest put in his care by the principal merchant and others. There were also another Jew on board, as rich as he, and 4 or 5 other Jewish merchants. The profits they make after being 9 or 10 years in those lands are marvelous, for they all come back rich. Many of these new Christian Jews by race, but baptized, being worth 60, 80, or even 100,000 crowns. The Portuguese had staked a claim to the region. They could not find enough colonists for its development, despite the fabulous profits. of those who risked settlement. There was, say the historians, a desperate need for European manpower in the face of Indians who died rather than submit to regimented labor, and blacks who died of too much regimented labor. The Portuguese difficulties presented an opportunity to the Dutch, who heard of the immense wealth of the New World and sought to gain access. Dutch merchants had been carrying on a profitable commerce with the Portuguese Jewish colonialists, and this relationship was a major factor in the establishment of the Dutch West Indian Company, the all-powerful but private European Land Development Corporation formed to conquer the rich northeast coast of Brazil. The Dutch West Indian Company. It is necessary to look more closely at the entity responsible for seizing and administering colonies in Brazil throughout the Caribbean. The Dutch West Indian Company was founded in 1621 for the sole purpose of making money. There was little concern as to how this was to be achieved. Its primary method was to establish colonies and trading posts in the New World and exploit the natural resources to then trade with Europe and other colonies, an endeavor requiring many thousands of black slaves. Keep in mind, this is 121 years after they had been in the New World, Jewish people. So this is 121 years here. According to the company founder, William Ulysses, some people were so vile and slavish by nature that they were of no use either to themselves or to others, and had to be kept in servitude with all hardness. The Dutch West Indian Company raised capital by selling shares and by pirating Spanish and Portuguese silver ships and plundering their cargoes. Winsor's Jews in colonial Brazil is more explicit about the company's origins and methods. Year after year, Dutch merchants equipped privateers and captured Portuguese ships with cargoes destined for the mother country. In 1616, 28, and in 1623, 70 such ships were captured. This is the context in which the East Indian and West Indian companies were founded in Amsterdam in 1602 and 1621 respectively. Their economic objective was acquisition of goods in India, West Africa, and America through purchase, barter, or piracy, and without Portuguese interference. Another aim was political, to divide the Spanish fleet and in general to weaken Spain to the greatest possible extent. Jews invested heavily and became willing partners in the company, seeking dividends from silver, gold, furs, and the slave trade. At the time, Holland was the only country where Jews were permitted some semblance of religious and economic liberty. The Dutch rulers, in promoting economic development, encouraged the immigration of Jews for their business expertise and international connections, and Holland soon became a center of Jewish wealth and power. The Dutch had invented the doctrine of mercantilism, the notion that the state existed not to save souls, but to increase wealth. and for this the Jews were reputed to be expert. Let's check some of the references here. Here's the references. Let's see. Brazil. So you got Herbert L. Bloom, Arnold Winsinger, you got Maslin Friedman, Modern Capitalism. These are books, respected books. Arkin, Professor Gilberto Freire describes plantation owners of this period. Okay.